And therefore, in our proposed review of the Children Act 2020, which I believe the Director of Children's Services on behalf of the ministry will say something about, emphasized that children need to be diverted from the formal justice system in as much as possible, so that children who are involved in small infractions of the law do not have to be taken to the police station, to the ODPP for investigations, and finally to court. Those cases can be handled at the community level because, as I said, the child went haywire because of a failure of a system which began from the home or within the society where they live. Therefore, we are calling upon diversion so that these matters are considered within the family setup, within the nyumba kumi, with our chiefs and the police stations around. We want these children counseled, we want them directed, and we want them monitored so that they can live within the family, go to school, and develop their full potential. So we've done many other things as the task force to make sure that children cases are handled expeditiously, and we continuously address that issue even during this COVID period. We are very concerned that cases of child abuse have spiked, and we have been asking who is abusing our children, especially this particular time when they are at home. Is it the people at home? Is it the people in the community who are abusing our children? So I'm happy to recognize and applaud the police. They are doing their best. They even launched a toll-free number where a child who has been abused can call. And we are calling upon all the stakeholders to understand during this Day of the African Child that access to justice is not just formal justice. Justice begins from home, where the child lives. Justice is in the community, where the child thrives. Justice is within the police stations, the chief's offices, and even in the religious institutions, our churches, our mosques. Those are areas of access to justice where we have persons in responsibility who can take care of our children and guide them and counsel them. So today is not my day, dear children, it's your day. I am happy to participate and declare this forum open. We are ready to hear from you. I'm happy to join my other colleagues from the ODPP, from the DCS, and from the NCCS. And thank you very much, Mutoto News, and all our partners who have come together so that we can dialogue with our children. All the best. Enjoy this culmination of activities leading to the 16th of June, when we formally celebrate the Day of the African Child. Long live the African child. African child life. Let us all join hands in protecting our children. Thank you.
Judge comment? To ask the children to ask questions. Judge Kome? Hello? Hello? Judge Kome? Hello? Hello, Judge Kome? She's calling me.
She's indicating she can't mute or unmute.
Okay.
The defense has been disabled.
It's not her. It's not her. It's she can talk. Hello?
Have you unmuted yourself?
Yes.
No, it shows you haven't.
Yes.
No, that's not me.
This is a different.
Oh.
Can I use? Oh, yes.
See, those buttons,
You just use.
the internet is
Hey, I got lost. No, I got lost or what? I can't hear anything.
No, the internet.
Oh, yeah, because I've gone on with the submissions and I am finished. Did you watch me up to the end?
Yes.
What I think the problem is from Total News.
Yeah.
The two have issues from their end.
Oh, then they called me to speak and I spoke.
Yes, we hear
Yeah. Oh, after me, I already spoke.
no one has spoken.
Oh, not with the introduction.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry, we're having trouble with the internet. So I'm going to use my phone to do the moderation. So we have NCCS and we have serious internet challenges. So I'm just going to use my phone to do the moderation because the computer has stopped joining. So I'm going to ask Madam Karemi to talk. Madam Karemi, she's going to use my phone too, or if you're on YouTube, it's live on YouTube, so she can go and talk because she can be seen on YouTube. So children, hello children. So we are going to ask you to, if you lift up your hand, if you want to ask a question and someone is going to allow you to talk. We are trying to connect using another computer because the internet here is really bad. So there are those ones who are already can be able to speak. So one by one, we are going to ask you to ask questions. We are going to start with, I think we have sorted it out. So let me just switch this one. So so we are going to start with a few children who are going to ask their questions. Children from Wamomo. Children from Amumo, yes. So, if you can be able to ask your question.
Questions you're asking.
Ask your question.
Yes, you can. What the goodness is, when it comes to response, as professionals, we have
Ask your question.
text for them to be answered. Yeah?
We can't hear you.
What is the better system of government?
Okay. We didn't hear you. Are you able to repeat again?
I think Andy is asking what is a better system of government. What is a better system of government?
Okay.
I had him.
Judge and respond.
I thought he was saying something else about children. Was he asking what is a better system of government in terms of looking after children? The better system of government, of course, is a democratic government where everybody is able to express themselves, is able to participate, and is able to take care of the interest of everybody, because a government is us people. So a government that excludes people, majority of the people, that system of government is not good. So that is why we all say a democratic system of government is the better one, because it includes everybody. It takes care of the vulnerable groups in the country. It takes care of children by ensuring there is education, there is health, and there is support for the vulnerable, including persons with disability, elderly, the children, and even those who are facing challenges that they cannot access food because of poverty, that the government does intervene. Like I know the same ministry that is in charge of children takes care of the vulnerable by giving cash transfers to the very vulnerable people of the society. So the better system of government is a democratic one. That is my answer to that.
Yeah.
Sorry, our question was, what is appetite system of government?
Are you getting us?
Hear that?
I'm asking whether you are getting us.
Jenny?
Network leo. Unajua from here on ndio so kama inakuwa mkono. Ma'am Jenny, are you getting us from your end? Hang. Maana imekuwa.
I think I'm getting you, but I don't think the host is getting us.
Yes.
I got your question to say that you asked, what is an apartheid system of government? Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay, so I can go ahead and answer as the host is organizing herself. The apartheid system of government was not a democratic system of government. It was oppressive, it was discriminatory, it did not include the voice of the majority of people who are the Black people in South Africa then. They were excluded from decision making. They were excluded from accessing so many things, including positions of power and decision making, parliament, in government. It was really an exclusive kind of a system of government that left out the majority of people. And there was sustained struggle for many years to free that country from the shackles of apartheid. So many people were isolated from their society because of asking for democracy in South Africa. You all know the legend, the father of democracy in South Africa, Nelson Mandela, was in prison for 27 years fighting for democracy. So that was the apartheid system of government that excluded the Black people from taking funds, from participating, from accessing, their government. So, and the children also demonstrated viciously to claim for their space, to claim for democracy, to claim for non-discrimination, to claim for rights. And the apartheid system was oppressive, it was brutal, children were massacred. That is how I would answer.
Thank you, Judge. We still have very bad challenges with the internet. So children, please bear with us. There's really bad internet here. So someone with the next question, please lift up your hand and just go ahead because I cannot be able to even to see your hand. Please just ask your question. The next person.
I can see a hand, you can go ahead.
What is judiciary harassment when arrested?
Come again, we didn't hear you.
To Justice Comey, what is judiciary doing about lack of legal aid?
Madam Comey, did you get us? Kindly unmute from your end. You have just muted. Okay.
Yes, I had a question what the judiciary is doing about legal aid. And yes, I want to emphasize that legal aid for children who are in conflict or contact with the law is provided for in the Children's Act. It's a statutory requirement that every child who is in conflict or in contact with the law should be availed legal aid. So when you go to court, if you do not have a lawyer, you're supposed to lift your hand and ask the court to assign you with a lawyer. And that should be done at the cost of the judiciary. We know since the Children Act was enacted in 2001, it provided for legal aid. And now we have the National Legal Aid Council that is supposed to coordinate and ensure every child gets a lawyer. But this is our country. We know we have some limitations. There are some corners of this country where there are even no lawyers practicing in some towns. But it is the judiciary or the magistrate who is dealing with the child is supposed to make sure that even if a lawyer has to come from another town, that has to be done. The court has to allocate that matter to a lawyer. I also know we've been blessed because we have many civil society organizations that offer legal aid to children. I also know the Law Society chapters, some organize themselves and say the way they give back to the society is by ensuring that every advocate in that particular jurisdiction takes a matter to defend a child. When I was a judge in Nakuru, the Rift Valley Law Society and a very vibrant program on access to justice for children. And they used to call it Juvenile Justice Program. They used to twine with some law firms in Britain who would even send lawyers from Britain to come and build the capacity of the local bar so that every lawyer in Nakuru took up a matter for a child every year. And that way, every child who came to court in Nakuru was represented. So as the task force, we have emphasized that children should have a lawyer appear for them. We have sensitized and gone round talking to magistrates and court user committees, and even empowering children, talking to them like we are today, telling them it is their right to ask for a lawyer when they appear in the police station or when they appear in contact with the law, so that they are represented by somebody who is trained in law to deal with the children. Besides the legal aid, we also have children officers who are knowledgeable about children's rights. And when children come into contact with the law, they can also ask for a children officer or a probation officer because they will be able to sort out their problem. We have also encouraged training of the police on children's rights so that they understand when they are dealing with a child, they should deal with that child like their own, because a child should be protected. Thank you.
Thanks, Judge Coleman. So I can see a couple of
I have
hands
a
up.
question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
This is my question.
Some of the children are going to court, and from the court, some people sometimes talk so bad things about them.
What is the government trying to do concerning this case?
Can you say again?
Yeah, I'm saying this. When some children are carried to and from the court, for their courts to be heard, they are carried with some of the criminals in the same vehicle that sometimes talk of ungood things to them. What is the government through the justice system doing to undertake that pandemic?
Okay, Madam Karen is going to answer that.
thank you for the concern. Let me first of all begin with
Children should not even be mixed with adults, especially adults who are offenders. And this is not just at the police cell level. Even when you're being ferried to the court, children should have their own vehicle away from the adults, because we need to protect children from getting influenced by these adults. So when that fails to happen, that is when you have incidences where the adults now say certain things to the children that are not right. So I think it is important for children to raise these issues with us, and if it has happened to a child, they should be able to do probably a letter and say they were at a certain police station, and this can be done by the in charge of the institution where the child was taken. So for example, if it was Momo, you can talk to your in charge and they can always do a letter and say they were ferried to court with adults. Because sometimes what happens is these things are not known. It is expected that there should be a vehicle for children and a vehicle for adults. Of course, we understand sometimes the resources are limited, but that should not limit the innovation of our station. So if there's only one vehicle to a police station, we expect that they will ferry the children first, get them to the court station, and then go back for the adults. So if you can raise it with even our office, ODPP, we can be able to talk and liaise with the police, because we work very close with them, and we can be able to say what is the challenge and come up with a solution. And I will give an example of Milimani. There was a time at Milimani Children's Court, the children were being ferried in a lorry, the one they called the Mariamu. And you would find the children would have a difficult time even getting aboard the lorry because it was very high. So when that issue was raised, we were able to sit down as a court users committee, and another vehicle was given for children. So now children are brought in their own vehicle, and it is a Nissan which is comfortable. So it is important to note, and if whoever has raised the concern can actually reach out to me later, and if that we can be able to find out what can be done so that that does not continue.
Thank you so much. Mitatsuma wants to answer that question.
It's not answering the question, but in addition to what Madam Karime has said, the Department of Children's Services also has some child-friendly vehicles, and they are mostly stationed at our remand homes, where children are taken to the courts in those child-friendly vehicles, because it's a requirement that children should not be put together with adult offenders. Even in the cells, we used to put children in cells long time ago, but these days, once they reach the court premises, they are placed in very child-friendly places where they can play, they can eat, they can, the walls to those places are colored in child-friendly colors. We are improving on how we want our children to reach the court premises, and also when they leave, they should be taken back to where they are coming from in child-friendly vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Do you have any other question? I can see hands are up. So from Dagoretti Girls, Esther, can you answer? Can you talk? But you have to unmute yourself. Esther from Dagoretti Girls. Esther. Esther from Dagoretti Girls, please talk. You have to unmute yourself first. Okay, Bahati, I've seen your hand is up. Please talk. Bahati? Okay, go on.
No, let's look at the screen.
I would like to ask, for example, a child is killed and the person who killed him is a parent. Now, when the parent is taken to court, how will the child get justice?
Bahati, you have to ask the question again.
My question is to Justice Comey. The question is, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, Bahati.
The question is, for example, a child is killed and the person who killed the child is a parent. Now when the parent is taken to court, how will the child get justice?
Judge Comey? Judge Comey?
Yes, I'm here.
Did you hear the question?
Is it this only one where the parent murders the child?
Yes.
The other one, because I stepped outside.
There was another one, but Karemi responded.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that question. A parent who kills a child, and how is that child supposed to get justice? I think it is the responsibility of the parent to look after the child, to protect the child, not to harm the child. It's very, very unfortunate that a parent who is supposed to look after the child, protect them, can actually harm the child by killing them. That is really unfortunate. And once anybody commits a crime of murder, it's one of the most serious crimes that we have in our country. It's a serious crime. The law requires that person be charged and be tried, and if found guilty, be sentenced actually to death. The death sentence. So somebody killing means that also, if they are found guilty, they will also face death. So the child will get justice, but unfortunately the child will also be dead. So maybe those who will get justice are the other children who will be left without a parents. And the society that will have lost the parents and will have lost also the child. So justice requires that due process be followed, and somebody who commits an offense is taken to court and brought to understand that they made a mistake, and they have to be punished for that as the law requires.
Thank you so much, Judge. Anybody want to speak?
I don't know. Let me try and.
Go ahead. Okay, guys, you have to mute yourself so that we can hear you. If you talk, you could put on your. We can't hear you. Go on. Go on.
I have a question. For the children who maybe their parents are
in prison and maybe some are accompanied by their parents to the prison and some are left at home. What are you thinking will be done to ensure justice to the remaining children at home, or those who that stays at home when their mothers are in prison, or those who are? What are you thinking of it?
Madam Karemi will state that one and then the judge can do.
So when a parent commits a crime, the first person to arrest, or the office that does the arrest, is the police. The police is actually they're supposed to find out, are there other children in that home? But we know sometimes that does not happen. So, and they're supposed to work together with the Department of Children's Services. So if, for example, police go to arrest parents at a home for a crime they have committed, and when they get there, they find other children, they are supposed to call the Department for Social Protection, that is the Department of Children's Services, so that they can come in and then rescue these children, because we know children cannot be left alone. How will they fend for themselves? How will they eat? Who will protect them? So when that does not happen, then there is a challenge, because the children are left vulnerable, and that is why we encourage like the Nyumba Kumi community initiatives. If the neighbor sees the children have been left, they should be able to know, if I walk to the children's department at the police station, I can report there are certain children who have been left, so that the government can now come in and take care of these children. So sometimes as a prosecution, we do get to hear of these cases when they are brought at the court for us to charge the parents. What we usually do is we'll always call in the children's office and inform them that we understand there are some children at home. And what the children's office does, and they are present here and they will be able to confirm, is they do a social inquiry report. So they will find where the children are, they will take them, they will bring them to court with a report. I will do the report later. But the first important thing is to keep the children in a safe place. So they could be taken into a home, or they can find a next of kin, an auntie somewhere, or a grandmother, or somebody who can take these children. Because we know institutions are not the best places to take these children. So we try and prevent the actions of the parents from having a negative impact on the lives of the children. And it is the duty of the government to ensure that that is done. So there are mechanisms, but sometimes we rely so much on the community, because it's the neighbors who will see the children are not taken care of. It's the police officer who will see there are some children there. But there's an avenue, and even the child themselves. I think it is important, even for children, to know where they can access help. So if you are a child and your parent has been arrested, you have been left alone in the house, what can you do? Where can you go? So I think it is important, for even as we talk about this, for you to know that if you go to the police station, you'll definitely find either a gender desk or an officer who's in charge of children matters. And you can say we have been left alone in the house. Or you can go to your neighbor and tell the neighbor, police officers came and we took our parents, we have no one in the house. Can we get some help? The neighbor should be able to know they can walk to the police station or the children's department. And also, if you have access to a phone, you can call the number 116. That is a child helpline. If you call that number, there is somebody on the other end who listens to you. They will ask you questions and find out where you are, and they can send a children officer to where you are, so that you can they can come in and help you. So we know there are these situations, but at least the children, we encourage you to listen to the information that is out there, to know how you can help yourself, because sometimes you might be alone and you have to make some decisions, especially if you find you're the older child in that home. Also, it is important for us to mention that when parents are arrested, like a mother is arrested and she has children who are below the age of 4 years, those children can accompany the mother, because you find some of them are small, they're still feeding. Langata is able to take in the children together with the parent. It is unfortunate when a parent has to go through the justice system and then the home is left without a breadwinner, but just be encouraged to know that the government is alive to that fact and it has avenues of how to take care of those children who have been left at home.
Thank you so much, Madam Karemi. Bwana DCS, the Deputy Director.
Thank you, Jenny. Prison is not the best place for a child. As Karim has put it, a child under 4 years must remain with the parent because at that age, this child is in need of maximum care from the parent. But where there is a family member who is willing and is able to take care of the child whose parent is in prison, that family member is the best person to take in this child or children. In the event there is no family member who is willing to take in these children, we look at the wider community where we have people who can foster these children to remain within the community for that period the parent is in prison. But in the unlikely event that there is no immediate family member who is willing to take in these children, or in the community there is nobody who wants to foster these children, we go for the last resort, which is an institution. The department is not really keen at placing children in institutions, but at times we have no other option apart from placing these children in such institutions for that period when the parent is in prison. The department will be monitoring the growth and development of this child while in that institution, and by the time this parent is freed from prison, we would have prepared the community, the parent, that this child is doing well in a certain institution, and any time the parent is freed from the prison, we reunite the child with the parent. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bwana Deputy Director. So I'm seeing several hands up, so I'm going to start. I want to give a chance to Dagoretti girls. I know they have been lifting up their hands. And please, Esther, mute one of your gadgets because we are receiving a lot of feedback. I can see you have logged in with 2 gadgets. Please mute one of them or leave one because we are receiving a lot of feedback on our end. Okay, and then now ask a question. Esther?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you have to leave one of your gadgets is making a lot of noise, so you have to use only one gadget. You either leave, just use one gadget, leave, or let me remove one of your gadgets so that we can use one. Just leave with one gadget, just use one gadget so that we hear, because there's a lot of feedback. In the meantime, as you're working on that, Anthony, please talk. Anthony, Buire. Okay, go ahead now. Esther, go ahead. I can see you have only one gadget now. Go ahead and ask the girls to ask the question. Unmute yourself, Esther. Okay, go ahead.
My question is, you saying that children belongs to the family. What if the abuse is in the family and I'm about to go home? What am I going to do?
Okay, you are really fast. They did not hear you, and listening to this question. It's a very interesting question. So repeat your question so that they can hear it.
Saying that the children belongs to the family. What if the abuser is in the family and I'm about to go home? What am I going to do?
The abuser in the family. So let me clarify. The question is, you say the family is the place for, is a good place for children, but if there are abusers in the family and you're about to go back home, what are you supposed to do? So your home environment is not the best for you because they're abusing. So what are you supposed to do? So we start with Department of Children's Services, and then I think NCCS, you have something around that. One of the director.
We would have talked to the your parents back home, and if we really establish that there are still abusers in the family, we cannot immediately take you there. We will have to place you somewhere or with a family which will take care of you for some time as we prepare your family to accept you back home or to change their behaviors so that you will not be abused again.
Okay. But NCCS, see you.
Not only the family, but even there's a whole process involving an environmental adjustment program that also involves the whole community. And our focus is to ensure that the environment to which you are received is conducive and friendly to you. And it's a receptive environment that actually welcomes you. And until we have ascertained that, we will not encourage even the release to the community. And just as our Deputy Director has said, until we go to such a level, we will always find an alternative place to keep you safe and secure. So that is how we take care also of your concerns. That is still there are problems at home, what should be done. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to try?
For me, I'm really concerned about what kind of abuse you're talking about. There is the kind of abuse where maybe the parent is too much of a disciplinarian, and when they are disciplining you, they give you some physical harm. But there's also another kind of abuse where probably the abuser is a pedophile, a sexual abuser in the home. So it is very
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes. So if, for example, you are talking about a serious kind of abuse, like sexual abuse, maybe you're in a home where the father is the abuser and they are sexually abusing, or there's a relative in that home. And that is why I think the child is getting concerned of going back to that home. There is a law. So if you're talking about sexual abuse, it is important for you as the child to open up and say, if I don't go back at home, if I go back at home, Daddy usually sexually abuses me. So that we can have the law now come in and take care of the situation. Because there are some kind of abuses that don't go away in a day. Don't go away with the parent just being sat down. They go away by the parent facing the law. So as a child, I would encourage you, find somebody you feel confident enough, you feel safe enough in disclosing to them that particular kind of abuse, so that the law can come in, the matter can get to the police, and then the perpetrator is arrested. I know there is the fear that, this is my father, I don't want to take my father to court, this is my relative. But if you go back to that home and the abuse has not fully been disclosed, you're going back to the same danger. So there is what the child must do, that is disclose the abuse. And then now when it comes to the police, we expect the police to do something about it. And this, what I'm saying is in addition to what the department has said, because they also have a role. There are those kind of abuses the department can sit down and have family conferences and it ends, and they are serious kind of abuses. So we are trying to tell you that there is access to justice for children. So the law should be able to come in and stop that abuse by removing the abuser from the home so that you, the child, can leave the institution, go back home and continue with your education and continue with your life, as this abuser is rehabilitated by the law. So that removal of the abuser from the home for serious abuse is very important. For small abuse, reconciliation and family conferences can be done to streamline the family, because what is important is having the child in a family, but a safe family.
Thank you, Madam Karemi. Esther, I can see you still have a few more girls who want to ask questions. So I want to finish up with your girls and then I can go to the rest. Esther, do you have another girl who wants to ask a question? Esther? Okay.
My question is, how will the children cases be handled during the COVID-19 pandemic to avoid delays?
Honorable Kome, did you hear that question? Honorable Kome?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes. How will the children
cases be handled during this COVID-19 pandemic? We are very conscious that if there are people's cases that need to be handled during this particular period, it is the children cases. They should be expedited, they should be handled quickly, and they should be finalized so that the children can go home, because we believe that they should not be in the institutions, they should be in the family. But we are also conscious that this is a pandemic that is serious. We should not endanger the lives of the children. We should not also endanger the lives of judicial officers and other people who are going to deal with the children, like the prosecutors and the investigators during the COVID. So what we have proposed is that we embrace virtual hearings for these matters. And I believe you have seen the court stations connect with your remand institutions to see how these matters can be handled quickly. And if they have not done so, I am now appealing to the managers of the institutions where you are to reach out to the court so that they can set up a virtual hearing so that these matters can be handled and they can be concluded quickly. We have engaged the partners to see how we can get, and they should be reported, I think, by the Director of Children's Services, because they are the ones in charge of the remand home or the child holding institutions, how each one of them can have a laptop and can have bundles so that they can be able to hold virtual hearings. And Madam Karemi is here. She can report on how they are also using virtual hearings by getting the prosecutors, find the witnesses, and attach them to either a police station where there is a possibility of them being able to give evidence, or a court station where there is a facility for a witness to give evidence virtually. So as we deal with the pandemic and we do not know for how long it is going to be with us, the first measure is protection, so that we protect ourselves and we protect the litigants who come before the court. Number two is to use technology as much as possible. So we are using various platforms for hearing hearing of the matters, Zoom, GoToMeeting, Teams, even WhatsApp. One magistrate told me how they actually conducted a hearing through a WhatsApp application and was able to issue orders which were necessary to ensure that the human rights of the child was protected. So it is for every station to become innovative and see how they can use technology to deal with the work that is before them. Speaking for the Court of Appeal, we are doing all our work virtually. We do not have to go to open court. We are able to connect with the prisons and deal with them from wherever they are without them having to leave, because, you know, once they leave the institution, then they are likely to be infected, and they are likely to return the infection to the institution. So we are trying to manage the situation as best as we could, but we have given priority to children matters. And if there are matters that are pending and children are waiting for hearing dates, I urge the manager to reach out to the court, to the prosecutor, or to the investigating officer and ask that matter be given a hearing date as soon as possible, virtually. Thank you.
I think the next person is
Madam Karemi. Then we finalize with the DCS.
Yes, I think Judge has said it very well. That is exactly what is happening. As ODPP, we know that for children cases, they need to be concluded quickly because of many factors. The very young witness might forget what happened if the child stays too long without giving testimony. We know sometimes the perpetrator is somebody close to the child, and there's the risk that this perpetrator could start, intimidating the child or interfering with the child with the hope that they will not disclose what happened. And we also know in other cases where it's the children who have been charged with the offenses that we need to let the case go quickly so that they can go back to their lives. So as Judge Kome put it, at ODPP we have also gone virtual. So we have internet connectivity and laptops, and what we are doing is working together with the police. So we'll inform the court that in this matter we have a witness who is a child and we need their testimony quickly. And then we'll organize, the IO will bring the witness. In some instances, the witness is brought to our office and we have the IO and the prosecutor there and the mother of the child. And on the other side, we'll have judiciary listening in on the matter. If the accused is in prison, they will be virtually on the prison side. And the testimony is just done like the way we are doing this webinar. So everybody can see each other. You can see the accused person, you can see the magistrate and the witness, and the hearing is being conducted. As Judge put it, we are
trying to be innovative even in the COVID period to ensure there is access to justice. And access to justice also means that it must be in a timely.
Also, what we are trying to do at ODPP is to look at the children cases and try and review them. Which are the petty offenses and which we can review and find another way of dealing with the matter. So for example, if you are a child who's been charged with a petty offense, could be stealing. Maybe you are charged with stealing something. So we are trying to see what can we do, how can we deal with this child in another matter so that they leave the institution where they are being held by either diverting the case or
withdrawing. So we are trying to look at how can we get children who have serious offenses access justice quickly. The ones who are the alternatives to trial. How can we employ the alternatives to trial? We hope we'll be able to reach reach as many children as we can so that we have them out of the system. But that's all are together. So far it is working quite well.
Thank you, Madam Karemi. Mr. Tsuma?
Thank you. I want to confirm that as a department we have also gone virtual. We have had court sessions in certain stations like Mombasa, Nakuru and others, where children could testify or give their opinions through a virtual platform. And the managers and the sub-county children officers, the county coordinators have always had a small allocation on a telephone to buy at least some airtime, so that where we want to have a meeting with them. For example, recently we had a meeting with the 47 county coordinators where we discussed about the current normal where we have faced the pandemic and how our children should be protected during this period. So we are already there. Anytime there is a matter in court, we are ready to go virtual. Only that officers need to inform the magistrate or the judge, and the children be prepared to be live on the platform. We are already virtually sensitized. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tsuma. Esther, do you have any more girls? Esther?
Na swali.
Uliza namba.
Mbona sisi watoto tukishikwa tukipelekwa remand huwa tunakadhishwa sana, mbona tukienda kotini bado tunaongezewa mecho nyingi bila kuhukumiwa?
Judge or Madam Karemi, one of you, who is going to take that question first? Judge. You are muted, Judge.
Okay.
It is against the law to keep a child in remand. The child should not be kept in remand unless they are very, very especially surrounding the child being kept in remand. The law requires that the child should be processed quickly. So it's a failure system where a child is kept in remand for long, and there's a failure of system when the case for a child is delayed, because the law says the case should not so if that has happened, it's a cause for complaint to the judiciary, to the ombudsperson of the judiciary, to say they hold the time that is provided in the law, and it's up to the manager that everybody on a remand home, which is against the law, because the child may not reach for themselves and complain for themselves. It is those who are responsible for the home to write a complaint to the ODPP and say this case has taken wrong, and if no action is being taken, even write to the judiciary and say this case is taking long. You know, these rights are provided for, and unless we create them, then they will just remain letters in the law. It is wrong. I'm saying here that the children officer, they should be able to find the best solution for a kid so that a child does not even stay in the remand home. Is there a relative of the child who can be able to take the child and bring the child to court the day they are supposed to? is there an institution, child charitable institution, that can be able to take the child and take care of the child in an environment that is more enabling than a remand, and bring the child, interest of the child in the situation? And my take on this is that the best interest of the child cannot thrive in the remand home. The remand home should be as a matter of last resort. And looking at all the cases that we have, because I have visited many, many remand homes, we found only 2 cases deserved to be in the remand home. One thing was not happening. So what we are doing as the National Council for Administration of Justice is trying to collaborate and coordinate with everybody to make sure that everybody does what they are supposed to do for the child protection. And this is why we have zeroed to the family, to Nyumba Kumi, as the institutions of nurturing and caring. Because the Nyumba Kumi should be able to tell us, the child, you can bring the child home, hire as the chairperson of the Nyumba Kumi. I will ensure the child will go to school, will come to court when they are required to come to court, and therefore they do not need to go to the remand home. And this, I may not be able to implement it as a judge sitting in the Court of Appeal. It is the officers who are charged with that responsibility at that level who are able to reach out to the Nyumba Kumi, to the family, to the teacher, to the religious leader in that community, and organize for the child to leave the remand home. And then all I can ask now is that all the magistrates who are dealing with the children cases to be aware that the cases must be finished within 6 months. These many mentions should come to an end.
Thank you, Judge. Madam Karemi, we have internet issues again. Madam Karemi on phone.
Yes, what Judge has said is very accurate. Children matters, according to the law, that is the Children's Act, are supposed to be concluded in the shortest time possible. But we know sometimes there are many challenges that can make that difficult to achieve. And unfortunately, the one who suffers most is the child. So, in addition to what Judge has said, we have also acknowledged this as ODPP, and we have recently developed diversion guidelines. And we are acknowledging that, especially for children matters, diversion should always be considered, so that we avoid having to take the child through this system that has challenges that sometimes are systemic, are not the fault of one particular person. So, but in addition to that, if this concern can be raised, because at ODPP we also have a complaints mechanism, and we receive a lot of complaints from people telling us the cases have taken long, and we always act on those cases. So if a child is in a remand home and the case has taken long, they can, through the manager of that home, write to ODPP and make a complaint, and we'll say this is the case and where the court station that the case is at, and we will definitely act on it. And the complaints mechanism is at the headquarters, but even at the regional level. So there's a way we are trying to address the challenges that we face in the system.
The next mbele is Mr. Tsuma.
Nitazungumza Kiswahili kwa sababu swali liliulizwa kwa lugha ya Kiswahili na ningeomba kujibu kwa lugha hiyo. Miaka ya nyuma, kwa sababu ya upungufu wa maafisa wa watoto, kesi zingechelewa kotini kwa sababu ripoti hazijafika, na pia kulikuwa na upungufu wa usafiri. Pale ofisa angeweza kwenda nyanjani kufanya uchunguzi wa kesi hiyo ndio iishe kotini. Lakini tangu tuwe na maafisa wengi katika gatuzi ndogo ndogo, ambazo kwa wakati huu tuko katika gatuzi ndogo ndogo 283 katika zile 290, matatizo kama hayo yameanza kupungua. Na pale pengine kuna matatizo ya usafiri, maafisa wetu waliambiwa kwamba waweze kuwasiliana na county commissioner aweze kuwasaidia, ama deputy county commissioner aweze kuwasaidia kusafiri kufanya uchunguzi katika kesi za watoto. Kwa hivyo hatutarajii kwamba kutakuwa na matatizo ya kesi kuchelewa kwa sababu ya ofisa wa watoto hajapeleka ripoti kotini. Na pale pengine kuna matatizo ambayo hayawezi kuelezeka, hasa mkurugenzi wa huduma kwa watoto ama katibu katika wizara yetu ama hata waziri mwenyewe huwa wanapenda waelezewe, ili kama ni jambo ambalo wao wenyewe wanaweza kulichukulia hatua katika ngazi za juu zaidi liweze kuchukuliwa hatua. Lakini kama ni jambo la kimsingi pale ambapo ni idara ya watoto inaweza kulitatua, sisi katika makao makuu ya idara tunaweza kulitatua, kwa sababu hata sisi pia ingawa tuko makao makuu ni afisa wa watoto, tunaweza kufika nyanjani na tuhakikishe kwamba hakuna kucheleweshwa kwa mambo ya kesi za watoto, kwa sababu kuchelewesha haki kwa mtoto, huyo mtoto umemnyima haki yake. Asante sana.
Asante sana, Mr. Zuma. We appreciate. So I can see quite a number of people with their hands up. So I'm going to allow someone else, not from the institution, to talk. I'm going to ask Rukaya, you've left, and I've seen you. Rukaya? Oh, it's already been asked. Lilian Temunto, can you talk? Lilian Temunto, unaweza kaongea tafadhali? Okay. Okay.
My question goes to Honorable Justice Mother Koome. Why are we given huge amount of loan and yet our parents cannot afford and are not able?
Come again. We did not hear the question. To ask again.
As much as possible, we decongest the remand homes, and that meant that cases of children needed to be reviewed. If a board was given which was high, the manager should, and ask that board terms be reduced during this COVID period, because children should be released. They do their cases from home. So the parents should be called and asked to just ensure the child is brought to court, because what is important for the court is that the child will be brought not to punish anybody by giving unreasonable bail terms. And is here to confirm that they cannot even oppose an application like that to review the terms of the bond so that the child can go home. And so long as the parent or the guardian or somebody responsible for that child, the Nyumba Kumi committee or chairman, are saying they will ensure the child will come back to court. And what we are telling the children, and not only the children, but all the other persons who are in remand waiting for trial, mkono wa serikali ni mkubwa. Ukipewa hiyo board, free board requiring you to come to court, you must come to court the day you are told to come to court. because failure to come to court, then you will face other problems. So if there is somebody who is in remand because they cannot raise the bond, please go to court or find your manager to find the prosecutor or the investigating officer to have your case mentioned virtually, and you'll be released to come and do the case when the hearing is set up. That's what I would like to say to answer that very important question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge. I understand you have another engagement, and I have so many hands up. So, so before you go, I just want to pick one last question from Rukaya, and then you answer it, and then the rest of the panel can go on. Rukaya, you had a question.
Thank you. So my question is, for those street boys who steal because of poverty and they're taken to court for, it's not their fault that they're poor, so they're taken to court and they lose their families and everything. So what is the government trying to do so they don't steal because out of poverty? Thank you.
Okay, before you answer, I've been told that let everybody ask questions. Like, I'm going to take 5 questions, and then you ask, and then they're going to be answered by the judge before she leaves. Marion, ask your question. Marion Awol. Marion.
My question is, if a child commits a crime like this, are they supposed to be put on the handcuffs?
Okay, they have written that question. Haya? Haya? Haya, are you there? Or is it you?
Yes.
Ask your question.
For my question is, for those street children who steal out of poverty and they're still taken to court because of stealing, yet it is not their fault that they stole because they're poor, they cannot sustain themselves. So what is the government doing to help such children?
Okay, thank you, Rukaya. We had your question. I was asking someone called Pius. Pius. Yeah,
Yes.
Pius. Yes, your question.
So, my question is, what is the government doing to ensure girls, especially teenage girls, are not involved in premarital sex during this period of COVID-19?
Okay, thank you so much, Pius. We have noted that question down. Daniel, ask your question.
My question is,
Daniel.
Yes?
Yeah, ask your question.
My question is, what if when a young offender is in a remand or in a police cell, and unfortunately his or her parent dies? What are the measures that the government do so that the child can bury his or her parent because he is still young?
Thank you, Daniel. We have noted that question. Gideon? Gideon, uko hapo, unaweza kauliza swali. Okay, Tanya.
My question is, at times we be due to false witness, the child might be found guilty and put into the institutions. What happens if later on maybe someone comes up, or the lawyer to the child comes up, and the case is heard again in court, and now the child is released what happens to the years that the child has spent in the institution? Does the court or the government compensate for the years that the child was in the institution?
Okay, Judge, are you able to do those first round and then before you leave, Judge?
Okay. Thank you, Jenny. I had another engagement for 1 o'clock, so that is why I'm begging leave to be around to leave. But it has been an interesting engagement. I will try and answer these questions, and I will also ask my co-panelists to clarify some issues that I may not be able to speak to authoritatively, especially the cases of street children. All I can say is that no child should be in the streets. All children should be at home with enjoying a family atmosphere. But we know there are many who are in the streets because they ran away from home, to run away from poverty, to go and seek a way of life in the streets. So these are our children, and we must always look at them the same way we look at our own children and wonder what is the best interest of these street children. So within the law, we consider them as children in need of care and protection because they need not to be in the streets. So what can be done? What can be done is to connect them back to their families and see what support can be given to their families so that they can be able to bring up their children. And that is why they are brought to court, so that the court can open a care, we call it a protection and care file for each of these street people when they are brought to court. It is not to punish them in any way, but to process a roadmap of how they can be rehabilitated, their needs can be assessed, and they can be taken care of. You have asked also a connected question of children who steal because they are angry, they are in the streets, and they are just stealing so that they can have something to eat. Or I can say as a judge, even if you're hungry, it's not a reason for you to steal. It's a reason that it is not a justification for stealing. So we will always treat stealing separate from the issue of poverty. Deal with the issue of stealing as a crime because it's not around in our law. And stealing, being hungry can never be a justification for stealing. But when the magistrate is dealing with that particular issue, there is something in law called mitigation, to look at the surrounding circumstances. What caused the child to go and steal? And when the magistrate realizes the child stole because they were hungry, then the magistrate will call the parent or the guardian and find out why the child went stealing. And then the problem will be sorted out by developing a roadmap, what we are calling diversion. There are many cases like this which we have handled. There's a child who had gone and broken into a neighbor's house and stolen the Meko cooker so that he could sell it and buy himself a phone. So when they went to the case conference between the police, the Nyumba Kumi, the children officer, and the investigating officer, the child was sorry about this, and they decided to pay the owner of the Meko and for him to do some community work for the owner of the Meko to say sorry. So what I'm saying is this is our society. All those who have challenges are part and parcel of our society. We need to find a lasting solution to the problem of poverty, the lasting solution of what is taking our children from home to the streets, and address it. And that is the big work of the social workers, but not only the social workers, but also the parents and the community, the readers, and everybody together. Number two, I think Marion wanted to know, if a child commits a crime, are they supposed to be handcuffed? And the answer is no, unless the child is resisting, to be properly processed. This I mean, if the child is trying to run away, if they are trying to run away, of course, the police will use whatever is available to restrain them from running away until they are processed. But the best interest of the child, which runs across the mind of every law enforcement officer, is that a child should not be handcuffed. Even if a child has committed an offense, they need to be talked to, they need to be dialogued, communicated in a way that you do not humiliate them, you do not take away their dignity, you affirm them as children and let them understand they have done an offense, they have committed a crime. But that does not mean them being subjected to punishment, being beaten, or being handicapped, or being humiliated. Is to tell them they have committed an offense, which is unacceptable, and dialogue with them until they accept responsibility. And if they don't accept responsibility, the law has a way of bringing them to accept responsibility. That's why we have the Boston institutions where they are kept for a certain number of years so that they can be taken through training, counseling, until they come to understand what they did. Pius asked a question: how can teenage girls be protected from premarital sex? I think that answer falls to Pius to understand the girl does not make herself pregnant, does not involve with the sex alone. There is a boy or a man who is involved, and it is the men who should keep off from girls, knowing that it is a serious offense to engage in sex with a girl who is below the age of 18. It's a serious offense that is provided for under the Sexual Offences Act, and anybody engaging in sex with a girl who is less than 18 years knows that they will be going to prison for nothing less than 20 years. So when you see a teenage girl, you just leave her alone. All right, Pius? I think there we have communicated. And then Daniel wants to know, when a young offender's parent dies, how can the offender be facilitated to attend the burial of the parent? That is a question that I think the director will be able to answer, because that is social welfare. When young offenders are held in the institutions, is their responsibility to take care of their entire welfare. So if they have lost a parent, then it is the institution to facilitate that child to mourn the parent and to be facilitated maybe to attend the burial and give the parent a final rites, a final farewell. That's a social welfare issue by the institution. Then Gideon asked about false witnesses. How can we deal with those mistakes when a child has been tried, convicted, and put in an institution by mistake. And when an appeal is done, the court finds that the witness, the evidence that put the child behind the bars in the institution was false witness. That happens a lot of times. And I sit in an appeals court. We are always allowing appeals for one reason or the other. And there are many, many mistakes that happen. There could be somebody who gave false evidence. But if it is merely false evidence so that you get the child fixed, and it is documented the person gave false evidence, this person can be sued. The police can also take action against the false witness for giving false witness, swearing a false statement. And I think Madam Karimi will be able to elaborate on that. Because we are not supposed to bear false witness. We are not supposed to lie on oath. So if somebody did that, it's also another recognized offense. But there are other mistakes that happen in the trial that you really cannot pin either the magistrate or the prosecutor. They happen during the trial, and that's why we have the High Court correcting the mistakes, and also the Court of Appeal correcting the mistakes, because we know everybody is a human being and they can make mistakes in the process of doing their work. That's why there is the appellate system. I think that's all I would like to say about the questions. I wish you all the best. You'll allow me now to leave, and my co-panelists will answer other questions. Although there is one question I saw on the chat, Jenny, if you allow me, I can respond to it, because somebody called Datembaye asked, my question is, some cases can be handled at the community level. What are the cases to be handled at court level and others to be handled at the community level according to the law? Now,
Judge.
Yes.
There is one more question from YouTube. It says, I think you're the only person who can answer that question. And the question is, when will we complete the enactment of the Children's Act? This is to ensure the protection of children so that they can access justice. So that's a question from YouTube. So because I'm sure you're the only among us here who can be able to answer that question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jenny. I think that question should be answered by the... Yes, because the bill is with the ministry. They were to do the cabinet memo to submit it to the cabinet and to parliament. I don't know how far they have gone. So I will bounce that back to the DCS to answer, because we finished our work of correcting the views, drafting it, and presenting it to the minister, who in turn presented it to the AG, and it was now drafted into a proper bill. So it is just waiting for the cabinet memo, and it's only the DCS who can answer because it falls within their ministry. So can you allow me to answer the one about the cases, or Karemi can also answer that? I will ask her to say something about cases that are being diverted. As we said, that is waiting for the enactment of the new children bill. That's where we have our whole chapter on diversion. But even without that, we've been using the fundamental rights that are entrenched in the Constitution for the protection of children, fundamental rights of children, and the best interest of the child, which is underscored in the Constitution and in the Children Act, to say that the best interest of the child do not require the child to be dragged through the formal justice system. It's not in their best interest. And for this, we've been able to isolate small cases, in small offenses, especially children in conflict with the law. Small, I mean what we call in law misdemeanors. And that I can just describe it by saying what is not being diverted is capital offenses like murder, robbery with violence, especially where the child has been involved in gangs, and cases that really require a lot of processing and a lot of introspection, and sexual offenses as well are not being diverted because they are serious offenses. All the others are infractions because a child has lacked instruction, there is a failure in the family, in the system. So those are the ones that are being diverted. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. We really do appreciate. There was a child who told me, who wrote in caps. Please, Judge, come and answer my question. I don't know if you're still there, James. James? James, are you there? I unmuted you and you're not talking. Judge. Okay, I think I just want to say thank you so much. I think he's gone. He's not there. I want to say thank you so much. And so we don't have time. So we have like 10 minutes to finish up. So our children are going to respond to the questions which have been asked. The rest of you, please put your questions in the chat box at the chat box written Q&A, and we are going to respond to the questions. If you can be able to put your questions in the chat box, we can be able to respond to the questions. Thank you so much, Judge. We really do appreciate it. Even your fellow panelists are saying thank you so much, as you can see. They're saying thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. You know you are very busy, but you took time to come and speak to the children. We really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you so much.
That's my question.
Yeah, so you go to your questions. So we are going to respond. We are going to start with the other questions. Starting with the Deputy Director at Children's Services to respond to the questions that have been asked.
Thank you. Let me start with the question where a parent is lost and the child needs to attend the burial. As a department, the child will be accompanied by an officer because it's traumatizing not to attend your parents' burial. The officer will accompany the child to the burial. This officer should also be talking to the child in a friendly way. Most likely the officer should be a counselor, because when you lose your parent, you are in a state where you can despair and you feel like you are not in this world, and you need that support from an officer who is skilled or knowledgeable about how to handle trauma. Secondly, I want to touch on stealing on the streets. Children are on the street, sometimes not because they want to be there, but they are forced by circumstances to be there. Poverty has always been the cause of some children leaving home and going to the streets. Some people use children as a business. For example, in Nairobi, you find that some children are placed at strategic points begging. In the evening, these children are collected by some people, taken to rented houses, and whatever they had collected during the day is taken by this person. Other children come to the street because of their own indiscipline. The home may be conducive, but they feel they want to be free. they want to do their own things and they leave the home to the streets. However, the government has many programs to address these challenges. In the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection, apart from the Department of Children's Services, which has that mandate to safeguard the rights and welfare of children, we have the Street Families Rehabilitation Trust Fund. The fund is addressing issues of rehabilitation, it's addressing issues of support to the families, it's addressing issues of reintegration of these children back to the family or the community, and it's also trying to refer these children to other services where they will be supported. We also have the cash transfers to orphans and vulnerable children. We have a cash transfer to older persons. We have a cash transfer to persons with severe disability. A huge program we call Inua Jamii. The consolidated program for these cash transfers is popularly known as Inua Jamii, where every 2 months the beneficiaries get some stipend to cushion themselves from effects or shocks of poverty and to live in a dignified way. We also have a presidential secondary schools bursary scheme where children who may not be able to raise fees for secondary education, which is also subsidized, can get that support to continue with the secondary education. As we all know, primary education is free, so there is no point a child should leave the home simply because he or she cannot raise school fees. Primary education is free. Recently, the State Department for Social Protection started a new program which is addressing children from poor families under the age of 2 years and lactating mothers. We commonly call it nutrition improvement through cash and health education. This program is also trying to address effects of poverty within communities, though we are implementing it in 5 pilot counties in the country. All these programs are trying to address poverty and other issues within our communities. Street life will soon be an issue of history because the government is going to address these issues through budgetary allocations, through the other programs which are already there. The State Department for Social Protection wants to have everyone living in a family, living within the community and not on the streets. The streets can be hostile. The streets, when it rains, where do these people live? Or where do they hide? It can be cold for children. So we are addressing these issues, and as Justice Kome has said, stealing is a crime. As much as the circumstances may be forcing children to steal on the streets, some of these children may not be stealing because they are poor, but they are under pressure from those people who took them to the streets to steal. So we are going to address these challenges, and very soon we hope to have all these children and their families on the streets in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the Deputy Director and the Justice have exhausted what we will have said about those issues. But maybe to add to what the Director has said, it's not only primary education that's free, but even day secondary education is free. As the Director had said, the Presidential Bursary Scheme with the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection, administered by the Department of Children's Services, caters for also public boarding primary, boarding secondary schools. And vulnerable children in boarding secondary schools can get support of school fees through that scheme. As for the streets connected persons and their conditions, the government is doing all efforts to ensure that they are supported. And even just 2 days ago, there was the launch of the street family census in order to have actually an informed and evidence-based planning and programming for them. And it's our hope that, as the Deputy Director had said, soon the issue of street persons and the street families will be a history. Now, on my question on the question regarding the children's bill, Judge has mentioned what we were waiting for was a cabinet memo. Already the cabinet memo has been developed and submitted to the cabinet secretary, and from there onwards we expect it is Parliament to expedite on it, and it's all our responsibility to ensure that we support the enactment of the bill into an act. It's not only our children who are anxious waiting for it, but all of us are anxiously waiting for it, and we all know what it means to the delivery of justice for our children. So it's our call that we all support it. But in terms of the processes, we have also completed it from our side, and the cabinet memo has been finalized and submitted. Thank you.
So I think that Kome spoke, gave some good answers to those questions, but just to add a little more to what she said. I want to talk about the structural distance because part of our mandate as ODPP is prosecuting people who break the law, and I want to encourage children to not accept crime as a way of resolving their situations, because there are consequences. It is important we understand there are consequences to every action we do. Apart from being arrested and prosecuted, you could get attacked by the mob or the person who you have stolen from, and they could seriously injure you. So yes, we understand there are these circumstances, and I want to link that question to diversion. So I had earlier said that ODPP has a diversion policy and guideline, and the reason why we developed this diversion policy and guideline is we understand sometimes humans commit crimes out of circumstances, sometimes that are beyond their control, sometimes it is something you do in the heat of the moment and you regret. So as ODPP, we decided that if it is a petty offense, we are going to consider it for diversion. And what diversion means is not that we shake your hand and say, goodbye, don't do it again. It has to start with you as the child. You have, first of all, to accept responsibility for the offense that you committed. So if you are that child on the street who stole because you were hungry, the first thing is to admit, I did the wrong thing, I'm sorry, and these are my circumstances that are compelling me. And so ODPP will then decide, instead of prosecuting you and taking you through the trial system and you have already admitted to your responsibility, we are going to help you in such a way that we can turn around your life. So if you're that child in the street, the diversion system that we will employ is to link you up with other programs, which might be the DCS or NGOs that offer support. So you can have DCS or the other NGOs, providing you with a shelter and rehabilitating the devices that you might have learned on the street. And so we do this diversion either before the time of plea, when the police have finished the investigations, or even after. If you're already in remand and you have a case and it is not a serious case and you admit that you did it, you can always approach your remand manager or your advocate and tell them, I want to have my case considered for diversion, and they will contact the prosecutor that is dealing with that matter, and your case will be considered for diversion. I think that is what I needed to add. And then in terms of the children bill, currently what is being done is rules and regulations that are going to, what do we call it? That is going to assist in the implementation of the children bill have already been developed, and they are going there. It's at the public participation where now members are expected to give their views on what they think about the rules and regulations. And once this stage is done, I think the bill now will be ready for it to go up to the cabinet. So there's a team working day and night to ensure that this thing does not take longer than is necessary.
Thanks.
I'm seeing there's a question here about child trafficking. Yes, there's a question from YouTube about how we have addressed the issue of child trafficking in Kenya. So I will answer. Okay, we can start with the director, deputy director.
The question is, someone wrote to me, what are you doing about child trafficking in Kenya, especially for children who are victims and who are at risk of being trafficked?
As a government and and especially from the Department of Children's Services point of view, child trafficking is a very serious issue because it involves people who are well financed. It's a crime which many people may equate it to just a normal crime of abduction and such like things, but the trauma through which children go, the trauma children face in this whole crime is great. But we have a whole section in the Department of Children's Services which is addressing this. The Act Counter-Trafficking in Persons Act has formed a clause which we are supposed to be having a board or an advisory committee which is in place. The minister appointed this advisory committee. We also have a trust fund for victims of trafficking which has a board which is working, and this fund is supposed to address or support victims of trafficking. We are biased towards children as a department, but trafficking affects both children and adults. That's why you cannot separate the child from the adult when you are addressing human trafficking. They both face the same consequences, and the government has allocated quite a good amount of money towards supporting the victims. Other partners have also worked with us to create awareness on how to identify victims and also how to do the investigations. You know, how to identify a victim of human trafficking is very, very difficult, because this person may be under the supervision of a person who is not very near this person who is being trafficked. That knowledge may not be with us all, but the Department of Children's Services, with the support of some partners, and especially IOM and UNODC, has been doing some trainings so that we get that skill of identifying these victims. Once the perpetrator is known, then the prosecution takes the case to court, and a few months ago we had some cases in court which were being handled. I do not know how far they have gone, but Madam Karimi can say something about those cases.
Children, I know you know that child trafficking is an offense. And the government also recognizes that, and it has implemented a law, the one that Deputy Director has referred to, the Counter-Trafficking in Persons Act. So this act makes it an offense to traffic any child. And trafficking a child would mean removing a child from where they are, transporting them, receiving them to a certain place, harboring them and exploiting that child. And the law also recognizes that consent, no one can say that this child consented to me moving them and giving them maybe certain work or the form of exploitation that they may have, that is being orchestrated against them. So, and ODPP, because we are the ones who prosecute these cases, consider them as serious offenses. And that means even during this time of COVID, where we are saying the court has downscaled, we have, and this is together with NCAJ, we have identified human trafficking, and which includes child trafficking, as one of the serious offenses that need to proceed in court. So what the government is doing is ensuring that the perpetrators of these offenses are arrested and they are brought to book, and the victims of these offenses, as the director has said, are provided a safe place where they can be kept so that they are away from these traffickers. And during that time when they're in safety, their statements can be taken and they can be provided with any support they need, maybe psychosocial support, because we know trafficking sometimes can be a very horrifying kind of event in the life of a child. And I would like to also add that sometimes we know children may not want to talk about it. So maybe you've been trafficked, but you're afraid because you don't know who to speak to. And that's why I keep on saying that safe spaces. And we want you to know that safe spaces include the police, include a children officer, a teacher somewhere, a pastor, somebody who you know when you go to talk to them, they can help to rescue you and take you to a safe place away from the perpetrator. And we know sometimes this offense can be very vast, meaning sometimes the trafficker is not even somebody known to the child, because it is only a middleman who has been used to traffic the child. and children are afraid. And if you contact ODPP, because the Article 157 of the Constitution also gives the DPP mandate to instruct the Inspector General of the Police to investigate a matter. So if you come across a prosecutor, you can also let them know if you've been trafficked, and you can be able to give the case to the police so that it can be investigated. So in terms of response to the offense, the government has put in place mechanisms, and in terms of protection of the victim of trafficking, also that has been put in place. And we have cases in court, and we are getting conviction in those cases, meaning that the law is actually working. We are also, when you're working, we work together with immigration, because trafficking mostly happens across the border. So immigration is also becoming more and more alert. They're becoming trained on how to identify a victim of trafficking, because sometimes traffickers will intimidate their victim to the point where when they are crossing the border, you might think this is a mother and her child, when it is a trafficker and a victim. So government officers are going through continuous training so that they are able to identify these victims, and we are having the stakeholder mapping. Where do you take child of trafficking? So within the ODPP, we actually have a special division just for human trafficking, and even at the police, DCI have a special unit for trafficking, the same as with the Department of Children's Services.
Thank you so much, Madam Karemi. So I'm going to, sorry, I will not allow you to talk this time. I'm just going to read the questions in the chat box, and then we are going to answer them. So one of the questions is, what is the challenges of a child to have access to justice in Kenya or Africa, and how do you handle them? I think that one has been answered. Legal document acquisition for OBCs is a problem at the border if a letter comes from another without a Kenyan ID. Okay, so this is saying if you're an OBC and you want to travel, so you don't have getting an ID. My question is, how do children who are mentally challenged help to get justice because they cannot express themselves? Okay, that's a very good question. So there are quite a number of questions, and those ones who are watching on YouTube, thank you so much. You have seen your question. I'm hoping we have responded to most of them. Levis, my question: would like to ask why in some cases minors are not taken to adult jails? Okay, that one, I think that one, Madam Karemi. Okay, parents, but not, okay, that one I think, there are no letters. You said about parents who die, there are no letters. That does not happen. Someone has just said that. How can you contribute to children's centers having scarcity of some basic ones like food? They are from a rehabilitation center. That is for you, Mr. Zuma. Is there a law that is protecting children who are taking ARVs and they are being abused at the same time, Mr. Zuma? If a child has been raped and she does not have anyone to speak to about this matter, how will she get her justice? So I am going to do this. Sorry, to my other computer. Call 116. 116. What's your name? She has left. Where is she? I forgot. I don't know where you have gone, but call 116. I've seen your question, and I would let the DCS probably follow you. I've seen your name. I'm going to send you a text message and give you a number that you're going to share more details about your case, and they're going to help you. But in the meantime, I'm sure mother is watching. Mother, you have someone who's going to call you very soon. 116, it is free. They're not going to charge you, and there's someone who is going to speak to you. So do not worry. Someone is waiting to talk to you, so you can talk to them. Call 116 right now, and they will be waiting for you. So I think 116 is the easiest. Is there another number? So, or we just do 116. 116. So these are very interesting questions from someone in Kisumu. They are saying, both boys and girls having the same level of judgment. I think this comes the Romeo and Juliet kind of case. Madam Karemi, are street children treated in this period of pandemic? So how are street children treated in this time of pandemic? Knowing there is hope, there is all these things, but are they treated the same way? How are they being treated? I think I've gone through all the questions. If I have not answered your question, please write it again because there are so many of them. Yeah. So Mr. Tuma, you're the one with the most questions. So we'll start with you.
I may not have gotten them all,
okay.
But let me start with the one who was asking about an ID and crossing a border. An ID for a child is not a document we consider important because a child basically is not supposed to be having an ID. The birth certificate is the only document which can give you a passport to cross a border. On children taking ARVs and they are being abused, the child should just report to the nearest children's office or any government office and make a report because abuse is a crime. The police will take it up and the child will be assisted. Government officers start from the lowest level of Nyumba Kumi, the assistant chief, the chief, upwards. In between, you will find that there are children officers at sub-county level, at county level, and the child will get some support. The child can also reach our partners who work closely with us, like Jenny, you have just referred a child to call 116. It's a government number, but we are working in collaboration with Childline. The child will make that report and the matter will be followed up immediately. What was the question about street children?
So how are we treating the street children during this pandemic?
A child is a child. They are just being treated as children. All their basic rights are respected. And so, with or without the pandemic, a child will be treated with a lot of respect, with a lot of dignity, because whether on the street or in the house, that child has his or her basic rights. Those rights must be respected. So there is no particular difference that this child will be treated this way because he's on the streets. We are encouraging them to keep social distance during this pandemic. We are encouraging them to if possible, where the county government has provided some taps. I know there are some public places where they are running taps. They can wash their hands, though they may not have the soap. Washing your hands regularly will prevent the spread of COVID. Which is the question, please?
Let me just check. What are supposed to be done to children when their parents are in disagreement? I think that's another question. Mental challenged children, how do they get justice? Because they cannot express themselves.
Mentally challenged children, when they get into contact with the law, they are normally not alone. A children's officer will stand by them, or somebody who is versed in sign language. But a children's officer will be the best person to stand by the child to explain the circumstances under which this child is coming into contact with the law. Because they cannot express themselves, the parent is also expected to give more information about this child, because the parent has been staying with this child all through and knows more about the child, more than the children's officer. But the children officer, being charged with that mandate of protecting this child, will be there to assist in the justice system.
I think the other one was from Madam Karemi, and the internet has started acting up again, so I think we need to finish up now. Yeah, okay, so
I think I noted down about 3 questions.
Yeah.
Somebody asked about children being taken into adult jails. That is against the law. That is actually an infringement of the rights of the child, because the law is very clear that a child has a right to be held separately from adults. And that is why you see the government has gone to great lengths to set up institutions specifically for children. So if you have been charged with an offense and you've been given bail, you are not able to afford it, then you have to stay in remand. What the government has done is it has remand homes. So that is where children are supposed to be taken, not at the adult centers. So and I doubt a court will remand a child to an adult center unless maybe there is a dispute regarding the age. Maybe what the child is being presented as an adult. But with the courts, they have been sensitized that if there's a child in front of you, then that child has to benefit from what the law has put in place for them. So if there's any child who's in an adult facility, that needs to be brought to the attention of the ODPP. Let it be made known to the prosecutor, and the prosecutor will be able to get a different committal for that child. If there's a dispute regarding the age also, there's a process. The prosecutor knows what they are supposed to do. They are supposed to provide documents to show that this child is not an adult. So a birth certificate or a baptismal card, and where that is not available, there's scientific measures that are taken into consideration. So the child will be taken for an age assessment, and scientific analysis will be done to determine approximately, we call it the apparent age of this child. So now that child can benefit from the institutions that the government has put into place. So kindly let that be brought to the attention of the prosecutor, or even you can bring it to my attention. The other question I got, I think, was mentally challenged children. I think I want to add on to that. If an offense has been committed against a child who is mentally challenged, it does not mean they cannot access justice just because they are not able to express themselves. So at the point of investigations, the police officer is supposed to get a person who understands the communication of this child, most likely a mother, because some of them might not even know how to speak, but they have language, they have body language. And even during trial, when the matter comes to us as prosecution, what we like to determine is the child able to understand the proceedings. How do we, if this is a child victim, that is, how do we get them to express themselves? And also the law recognizes such category of persons as vulnerable persons. So for example, if it is a sexual offense, the Sexual Offense Act has a section that says such a child can be declared as a vulnerable person, and out of that, they will benefit from certain procedures. So we can get an intermediary to testify on behalf of the child. Like we had a case where of a child who had been defiled. They were mentally persons living with, I don't call them mentally challenged, there's a name for intellectual disability. So what we did is, because
the court first of all had to do a small interview with the mother, determine does this mother indeed understand when a child makes us, what does that mean? And then this mother was declared to be the intermediary for this child. So with an intermediary, what happens is that child comes to give their testimony, but together with their mother. So prosecution will ask a question to this child, and then the mother will give
the child to convey the question, and then the child will answer to the mother, and the mother will answer back to the court. So what we are basically saying is the law does recognize that you have this special group, and they are, in fact, apart from laws being put in place, there are persons who are recognized in law who can be able to help this child to get justice. I hope I've been able to answer that well. And then boys and girls having the same level of judgment. Maybe if I don't get the question correctly as you intended it, I think you mean, like for example in the Romeo and Juliet cases where there's a boyfriend and a girlfriend, and the boy child is the one who is being charged. You're asking about what about the equality. So a child is a child before the law, whether you're a boy or you're a girl. And no particular benefit should be given to a child on the basis of their sex. By sex I mean their gender. So the girl child should not benefit more than the boy child just because the boy is like that by nature. So yes, the law gives equal opportunity and rights to both children, and where it is seen that one is being discriminated based on their gender, that issue is supposed to be raised. So I wish you would have given an example of what you mean, what you have seen, maybe in your experience, so that we can be able to answer it well. But that is the position of the law.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Everybody's asking questions right now. Oh God. Oh my goodness. How can well-wishers support children during this time? I think it is the question. Yeah.
All right. So
yeah, there's a
clarification. So the clarification is in child sex case, why is the boy being charged when both of them did the action? So yes, this has come to the attention of all stakeholders, not just ODPP, judiciary and every other stakeholder. Initially what was happening, and which was unfortunate, is when a case of a girl and a boy, and we are talking about children that is below the age of 18, was reported, and probably the girl has become pregnant or they were found in a compromising situation. What had been previously happening is the boy child was being taken to court. But now when that came to our attention, that is ODPP, we started dealing with those cases in a very different manner, because when you talk about sex, and by sex we mean defilement, and the law recognizes defilement as penetration of, and children, please don't be shy, because you've asked the question and we know this is happening. So what we say is, there are certain things that we are going to be looking at to determine how we are going to deal with the case. So for example, if a boy and a girl have been found in a compromising situation, and during investigations it is revealed that there was some violence to it. For example, let's say if the boy forced the girl to have sex with him, and he could have forced the girl by being violent to the girl, or he lured the girl to have sex, then that we consider to be a criminal offense, because there was some violence happening during that the commission of the offense. But now there are special cases that have come to our attention, where we call them the boyfriend and the girlfriend cases, or the Romeo and Juliet cases, where there is no violence. It is a girl and a boy, and they have agreed to do something which is still illegal, because children are not supposed to be having sex. They are supposed to be concentrating on the education, but it has not happened. So what we decided to do, for those that are violent, where violence has been used, somebody has threatened the other, they have coerced the other to do something, that one we are charging. So whether it is the boy who forced the girl, or it is the girl who forced the boy, because we have had cases where it is the girl who have forced the boy. But now, in these other special ones, where there was no violence, there was no coercion, it is just children maybe out of not knowing any better, engaging in sex. Those ones we are diverting. So that we are saying we are going to help to always look at the best interest of the child when making our decision to charge. So by diverting, we mean we are going to take this girlfriend and boyfriend who are doing something they should be not doing because they're supposed to be in school, and putting them in programs that are going to help them to focus on what is important in life at that time, and that is their education. So we put you through a counseling program or a rehabilitation programs. We bring NGOs or the Department of Children's Services to give you support. Then these other ones, the one who committed the crime of forcing this other one and being aggressive and threatening and hurting the other person, that one is charged. We are charging because we are saying an offense is an offense. The same way we say you cannot steal because you're hungry. At the end of the day, you have committed a crime. But what we are saying is you're going to look at the circumstances so that we ensure not one person is benefiting to the disadvantage of this other person.
Okay. I think there's a question from, I saw, when a child is abusing, what is supposed to be done to parents who mistreat their children, considering they are the only host? So what happens to that? And then I think is it good for a child to be taken to remand where there is no education when the problem is with their parents? Madam Karemi.
That first one,
that I think one is at Suma.
Mistreatment could be also a criminal offense. So children have rights under the law, and no parent is supposed to mistreat the child. And by mistreatment, we mean the parents dealing with the child in such a manner that is either detrimental to the physical health of the child or the psychological health of the child. And discipline is allowed. Parents can discipline their children, but it should not be in excess. So when the discipline is in excess to the point that the child is even getting serious injuries to the body, then that becomes cruelty. And the law recognizes that as an offense, and the parent can be arrested for such kind of offenses. But where it is maybe issues of discipline, I know the children department deals a lot with these cases, and I think I would like the deputy director to now answer the other part of it.
As a department, in the implementation of our mandate, parents so much so that if they are the problem, they change. Sometimes some parents can be cruel to their own children, and the life in the home becomes unbearable. But when we talk to these parents, we counsel them, we tell them about proper parenting. Some do change, and they realize that they were mistreating their children. Some may not be having that knowledge of taking care of their own children. That is poor parenting. But with the knowledge we are giving to some parents who are mistreating their children, things are changing. There is a question about children being taken to the remand home where there is no education, when the problem is with the parent. It's true that our remand homes do not give the children primary school education. We have some classes for the younger ones who may be in rescue centers, not in the remand homes. But for the remand homes, because their terms in those places are very short, are expected to be very short, we sometimes just talk to some partners to offer some minimum formal education. But as we know, children are taken to the remand homes when they are in conflict with the law. And as soon as the matter is resolved, this child is expected to go back to the community and continue with the education. Also with the diversion program, petty offenses should not be taken to the petty offenses should be dealt with as per the diversion program, so that the child does not go to the remand home. I think
You're done.
Final approved, although we don't have approved.
Number of approved schools.
we do not have approved schools these days. We have rehabilitation schools.
But they still answer.
They are how many?
28.
Yes.
But no, those are all institutions.
All the government institutions are actually 30. But rehabilitation schools, they are 14.
Okay.
14.
Thank you everyone for joining us and for the questions. I can see we are hoping we have responded to all your questions. I think yes, I think that was the last one. And we want to say thank you so much for engaging with us and to stay for 3 hours, especially children. I know it's lunchtime to go and eat. We are so glad. Thank you, Ms. Atsuma, for coming. I know weekends are really difficult, for waking up early and coming. We're really, really grateful for the children. Wana CEO, thank you so much for joining us. Madam Karemi, I know it's difficult waking up on a Saturday morning, but thank you so much. And the team that is behind the cameras of all the things that you've been watching on YouTube and on this, I want to say thank you so much. I know it's a sacrifice waking up on a Saturday morning, especially during quarantine. We want to say thank you so much. Join us again on Tuesday from 11 a.m. It's 10. Oh, sorry, I've been told it's 10. From 10 a.m. as we commemorate the Day of the African Child. This time we are hoping we can have the CS, and then we're hoping we can have a representative of this, the Chief Justice himself and other officials. So I want to say thank you so much. We're going to leave you, those also on YouTube, with these few videos from children from Kisii who recorded, and they had some messages for us. Thank you so much. God bless you. Say bye-bye.
Bye, children. It was nice talking to you.